The Eiffel Tower, the world-famous landmark of Paris. It was built in the 1880s, and it was sold in the 1920s by a con man as scrap iron. The story of how he pulled off that particular sting will be the first stop on our journey into the strange, the bizarre, the unexpected. Get on target with Air Force pilots as they blast away in simulated combat. Share the joys of music as a young musician puts on a one-man show in a village in New Guinea. Join a congregation of cooks to compete in an international culinary contest. Find out how a musician tunes rock formations to transform a cave into a musical instrument. Join a family where love combines with computer technology to create a breakthrough in communications. Plow through a killing surf to learn how the Coast Guard perfects life-saving techniques. Swing through the treetops with people determined to overcome their fear of heights. Ponder the plentiful production of pies possible to produce from a ponderous 500-pound pumpkin. The strange, the bizarre, the unexpected. These are the kinds of subjects a man named Robert L. Ripley challenged us to
believe it or not.
In 1889, the Eiffel Tower's open metal framework created an instant sensation. Since then, it has become virtually a national monument. Back in the 1920s, the Eiffel Tower inspired a con man to concoct an outrageous scheme. His name was Count Victor Lustig. He decided to sell it. He didn't own it, but that didn't matter. He wasn't a count either, but he was a swindler of the first rank. Lustig set up his operation in a suite of rooms like this, in a plush hotel. He pretended that he was a high-level government official representing the French Department of Post and Telegraph. On Ford Stationery, he had invited 5 of the top scrap metal dealers in France to a meeting. When all 5 of them showed up and took their places around the table, Lustig put a copy of an official-looking contract in front of each one of them. Then, he told his tale. As you know, gentlemen, these proceedings must be conducted in secrecy with the utmost discretion. The government does not want to risk arousing a public disturbance in regard to this matter. The fact is, the government cannot afford to pay for the upkeep of Mr. Eiffel's tower, and so they have decided to quietly dispose of this eyesore once and for all. As scrap metal. As Lustig looked at each man in turn, he knew that at least one would take the bait. After all, there was a tidy profit to be made on about 7,000 tons of scrap metal. He was right. He convinced one of the 5 to write a check. Not to the French government, but to a certain Monsieur Blanchard, who supposedly represented the French government. The name Blanchard happened to be an alias that Lustig used from time to time. Then, with a superb sense of timing, Lustig cashed the check. Just moments before catching the train that would take him far away from Paris. When the victim found out he couldn't transform the Eiffel Tower into scrap metal, he was too embarrassed to blow the whistle on Count Lustig. So, the phony nobleman came back to Paris and, with supreme confidence, did the same thing all over again. Since then, thousands of tourists have bought these miniature Eiffel Towers as souvenirs. But Victor Lustig is the only man in history who sold the real thing twice. Eventually, however, Lustig paid for his crimes. He died in prison. And on his official death certificate, prison officials noted his occupation as apprentice salesman. Makes you wonder what he'd have to sell to be called an expert. Believe it or not. This may just be one of the most sophisticated video games in the world. Up to 20 tactical fighters maneuvering in simulated aerial combat at close to the speed of sound. Speed, acceleration, rate of climb, rate of fire, all are represented with total accuracy. And no wonder. The programs for this game are created by pilots and planes of the United States Air Force. The F-15 is a crack frontline air-to-air fighter. But this isn't a gun or a bomb or a rocket. It's an AIS, an airborne instrumental subsystem. An extremely sophisticated instrument pod that helps put the fine edge on a pilot's skills. Because it's plugged into the plane's electronic systems, it's able to record every detail of plane and pilot performance, including targeting and firing. Of course, in mock combat, the guns don't actually fire. If they did, we'd soon be without an air force. Everything that happens in the air is transmitted to computers on the ground.
I got him going down. Stay with it. 6 o'clock, crossing over. Run it down, run it. Now J3rd, now J3rd. I'm tracking, he's in my sights. Roger, round here, mission completed. Roger, let's go.
This is a debriefing room where pilots come after their missions to see what they did right and what they did wrong, whether they would have emerged the victor or the vanquished. By using electronics instead of weapons, pilots perfect the techniques they will need should they ever be called upon to fly in actual combat. Electronics provide little assistance in the battle with the forces of nature. To learn how to survive treacherous surf like this, sailors of the U.S. Coast Guard volunteer to undergo 3 weeks of rigorous physical training. For Coast Guardsmen, a tour of duty here at Cape Disappointment in Washington is an honor. While attending the world's only motor lifeboat school, sailors first learn the textbook techniques of search and rescue operations. Then, they must risk their lives to put them into practice. The weather at Cape Disappointment is perfect for training. It is almost always bad. As a protective measure, sailors must attach themselves to safety lines. The gigantic surf is capable of smashing a normal vessel. The motor lifeboat, however, has been specially designed to survive such a beating. Even if it is flipped upside down, it will turn itself over and emerge right side up. Bringing a boat this close to a rocky shore is dangerous. Each man must take his turn at the controls. While one trainee struggles to keep the boat in position, the others must demonstrate their ability to survive in the churning sea. After swimming through the surf, the final exercise of the training mission is the salvage of a beached boat. A thin line carried by the flare is used to haul in a larger rope to attach to the beached craft. If the line is not kept taut, it could foul the boat's engines. By undergoing such training, Coast Guardsmen continue an honored tradition. It's their job to save lives, even when it means they must risk their own. In the military, such risky physical training is a standard procedure. For ordinary civilians, however, it is not, unless they enroll to accept the Treetop Challenge in La Honda, California.
Welcome to Treetop Challenges. This is your day. We're here to serve you. The goal is to have you emerge a little bit strengthened, a little bit more wise about what power you have inside of you. The old philosopher said this one time, is the most holy form of theory is action. You just gots to do it. There's no way around it. Okay, up road. Down road.
Clear.
All right, let's cross.
The participants pay to be put through the training program. They come to gain self-confidence by overcoming the natural fear of heights. The training begins with simple warm-up exercises that begin the transformation of a group of strangers into a functioning team.
All right, let's reverse the direction. Go the other way.
The simple act of falling backwards is a way to get to know each other and, more importantly, to develop mutual trust. Each individual must be confident that if they fall, someone will be there to catch them.
Now.
Whoa, what a command. All right, come on now, slowly too.
Protective helmets are mandatory as the next phase of the training gets underway.
No second guessing on this one.
Each person must walk across a rope suspended only 2 feet from the ground. It's a relatively easy task. It's designed to teach basic technique as well as the value of the confidence-building support of an enthusiastic team.
Yep, because you might be next.
Gets harder as you go.
Okay, hang on to the rope. All right.
Despite the reassurance provided by a harness connected to a safety cable, climbing a tree can be a precarious procedure.
One move up. Beautiful.
Yeah, I do that every week.
The climb is only the first part of the exercise. Part 2 requires the courage to leap toward a ring suspended 40 feet above the ground.
Fix your eyes and leap for
Just
that.
my step, Bob.
Spring your
You
legs.
get it. You get it. You're tall enough. You grab it.
Spring your legs, Bob.
I got you.
As trainees gain in confidence, the challengers gain in height. This one demands a short walk across a thin rope stretched between trees 70 feet in the air. Each person is free to reject any test they feel is beyond their capability. By accepting the challenge, however, they discover they are capable of more than they thought.
You got it! You got it!
A soaring net of ropes dangling between towering trees is the final obstacle. It's 6 stories high. The object is simply to get to the top. Trainees learn 2 things. They find out that they are physically capable of meeting the challenge, and they also discover that self-confidence is the companion of courage. As a training exercise, swimmers once suspended themselves in special racks to practice the proper moves. Believe it or not.
In New York, an otherwise ordinary building on West 16th Street is distinguished by a simple brass plaque, American Foundation for the Blind. Inside, it is further distinguished by the products they sell and the people who sell them. Ricky McClellan is blind. So is her customer. From wristwatches to games, everything sold here is designed for the convenience of the blind. Products are either marked in Braille or utilize electronics to provide vital information. To check the denomination of a bill, it's simply inserted into this machine.
$10.
Machines that talk for people who can't see. This store is full of them. A thermometer.
7.
With a voice.
7.
A talking clock.
The time is 11:10 a.m.
They even have a calculator that counts out loud.
3, 6, 6, 3, 5, 2.
But as useful as all these devices are, there's only one with an ability that's astounding. At the moment, it's available only in some libraries, schools, and other learning centers. It's called the Kurzweil Reading Machine. It scans books and other printed material and reads them out loud.
I believe that life is given us so we may grow in love. And I believe that God is in me as the sun is in the color and fragrance of a flower, the light in my darkness, the voice in my silence.
That was written over half a century ago by a woman who was blind and deaf, Helen Keller, one of the most remarkable of remarkable people. The availability of such advanced technology has helped transform the lives of a remarkable family. Jim Icarius is the father of 8 adopted children. With his wife Judy, they have made their home into a loving haven for children of diverse ethnic backgrounds. One of them, a young girl named Serena, has become the center of the family's attention. She was born with cerebral palsy.
You have to move her when she wants to be moved. You have to take her to bed. Plus, you have to, this is very important to Serena, you have to play with her.
When we first had Serena diagnosed, they told us that she was going to be mentally retarded and totally handicapped. Serena is not mentally retarded. She does have a normal mentality for a normal 9-year-old child.
Although Serena is dependent on her family for mobility, her mind is active and alert. She is unable to speak, but she can communicate. By tapping her head on a switch, she can select words displayed on a light panel.
Yesterday was Tuesday. Okay, what's today?
Because of her condition, Serena can control little more than the movement of her head. Researchers at Michigan State University have learned that a little can be a lot. In the Artificial Language Laboratory, Serena benefits from the dedicated work of Dr. John Eulenberg. He has proven that if a person can control any part of the body, it is possible to learn to use computers to break out of the silence that imprisons the mind. To find out Serena's capabilities, she was put through a series of tests. In the end, Dr. Eulenberg sorted through his collection of gadgetry to put together a simple switch connected to a buzzer.
If you switch, you can make this happen. Good. We're in business. You know how many letters are in the word no? Okay. There are 2, aren't there? Okay. So give me 2 for the word no. No. Okay. So you beeped twice and it said no. Now how many letters are in the word yes? You beeped the number of letters that are in the word yes. Yes.
Once translated into a computer program, Serena's control of the switch will permit her to create speech, just as Jim Brooks has. He too has cerebral palsy, but he can create speech through the movement of his foot.
Serena, I'm anxious to have a conversation with you. I have no question that you will be talking very soon. The ability to speak is very precious to me. There are many people who have no way of communicating. Everyone has a right to communicate.
For Serena to learn a process similar to what Jim Brooks has mastered, she must begin with a basic vocabulary. By indicating yes or no, Serena chooses what those words will be. For her mother, the choice could be the answer to a long and fervent prayer.
Well, Mom, I guess you win the word sweepstakes. Okay.
I want to hear Serena say Mama. I want her to say anything, Mama. Mama, I don't like what you're doing. Anything.
Because of Dr. Eulenberg's inventive work, Serena Icarius can now use a computer to say what is in her heart.
Mom. Yes. No. Yes. Mom.
Okay, should we put some more words in there? Okay. Well, come on, you can tell me. Just speak to me.
Yes or no?
Should we put some more words in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay, good. You can say 2 words if you want. How about for 9 you can say I love you. How about that? That'll be a good one. All right. Let's go. Let's see if this works. Try 9.
That's it.
I love you.
I play trumpet in a symphony orchestra. That's how I pay the rent. So when I get a canker sore, I can't use that as an excuse. I have to be at my best, even if...
Many serious enologists, wine connoisseurs, insist that French wines such as these are always the best. Better than those from anywhere else in Europe and superior to anything produced in California. But even the most ardent advocate has to admit the wines of France are not entirely French. It's all because of an insect and a delicious twist of fate. About 100 years ago, these rich vineyards here at the Chateau Chinon and throughout all France were struck barren by a plague of insects called Phylloxera vastatrix. The bug killed the vine roots so quickly and on such a scale, French wine production collapsed almost completely. In desperation, the French were forced to turn to a country whose tastes they regarded as something less than refined. They looked across the Atlantic to America. American vines were resistant to the bug, so the French grafted the tops of their dying plants onto the vigorous imports. To this day, although one might hesitate to make too great an issue of it, even the finest and rarest French wines are made with grapes that grow from American roots. Winemakers and pumpkin growers share a common passion to produce the best there is. In Windsor, Nova Scotia, Howard Dill has grown the world's largest pumpkin for 3 years in a row. Although this year's entry seems to measure up to his expectations, he knows that he cannot stand on his laurels. There are others just as determined as he is to win the annual pumpkin competition. Dill's past victories have made him famous among pumpkin growers, and fame attracts challengers. Because a pumpkin begins to lose weight almost immediately after being cut from its vine, Dill waits until the last possible moment.
Move a little hard.
The struggle to hoist his entry from the field seems to prove that Howard Dill has another winner on his hands.
Okay. Up. Heavy on your side?
There's more at stake here than one man's ambition. Other places are famous for their skylines, their museums, their great boulevards. Windsor, Nova Scotia is proud of its giant pumpkins. Dill's entry is escorted to the competition with full honors. The weigh-off will pit Dill's pumpkin against entries brought to Windsor from throughout the region. All are massive, weighing hundreds of pounds each.
That was exhibit number 31, Howard Dill. The weight is 486.5 pounds.
Although he has surpassed last year's achievement, Dill is concerned about an entry brought from nearby Falmouth by a grower named Owen Woodman.
pumpkin is grown by Owen Woodman. It looks like a new world record of 564.5 pounds.
Despite his defeat, Howard Dill remains determined. After all, winning isn't everything. Besides, there is always next year. In Frankfurt, Germany, once every 4 years, another contest doesn't attract entrants who grow food, but those who prepare it. Over 1,000 chefs from 28 countries have come for the international culinary competition. Despite appearances, intense pressure is building even as the chefs assemble for the parade of nations. The American team has been preparing for 2 years under the direction of Coach Ferdinand Metz.
This is my 5th Olympic experience, and I've seen many people crumble under the pressure. I've seen many excel.
Every step has been perfectly planned. Executing the plans, however, sometimes means working around the clock in preparation for the judging. Personal and national reputations are tested in a variety of demanding events. America's entry in the table centerpiece division is an elaborately detailed chocolate sculpture. The perfectly scaled 5-foot model of the Capitol will win America a gold medal. A victory in the cold platter category depends on skill in both making and displaying exquisitely shaped hors d'oeuvres and appetizers. Great food must appeal to the eye as well as to the palate. None of these delicacies are eaten during the competition. They are judged solely on their appearance. To win the prestigious hot food category, the Americans have chosen a remarkable recipe. They grind up lobster, scallops, and shrimp to create what's called seafood sausage Virginia. In the last international competition, America startled the traditional champions by winning in this category. This year, in addition to the sausages, the American entry includes a complex creation called Loin of Lamb, Wyoming. Coach Metz feels an American victory depends on the success of the team's basic cooking philosophy. In a departure from the traditional approach, the Americans are dedicated to using sauces and spices to bring out the food's natural flavor rather than to disguise it. The fate of seafood sausage Virginia and loin of lamb Wyoming will be decided by a panel of distinguished judges.
Richard, very nice presentation. Very nice.
Today, America hopes to win the hot food competition for the second time in a row, something never before accomplished by any nation.
Und nun zum ersten Platz in dieser Gruppe. And now to the first place. I'm looking for the team from the United States.
The victory helps assure America's prominence in international cuisine. In Jerusalem, famous foods and cooks are memorialized in street names. Sekelahamin, for example, means Butcher Street. The street names and products sold on them have remained unchanged for centuries. Sekahanezit means the olive oil market. In giving a name to this section, early residents did more than create an address. They also passed judgment. They called it the Street of Bad Cooking. Perhaps they were right. In China, soup made from snakes is considered to be both a meal and a medicine. Believe it or not.
Music is a universal language when you hear it, but writing it down on paper requires a special language. Sharps, flats, key signatures, staves, all the special symbols of music notation. This becomes this. Modern musical notation like this was perfected in the 17th century and has remained relatively unchanged since then. The oldest form of sheet music, however, goes back long before that. The world's most ancient musical notation was written on a clay tablet like this, a hymn composed over 3,000 years ago. This type of writing is called cuneiform, symbols pressed into clay tablets. These particular impressions were made by a scribe in the ancient and long-vanished civilization of Mesopotamia. Thanks to the work of Professor Anne Draftcorn-Kilmer and her colleagues here at UC Berkeley, the composition has been transcribed into modern music notation. And Professor Richard Crocker now plays this on a replica of the ancient instrument for which it was composed. He also sings the lyric in the original Hurrian language.
Tanutani ashaziwe, shinute zuturia ubugara, kudunika shalkila zili shipri, umaruka tuari.
An echo of the past, preserved in clay for 3,500 years. This building provides access to an extraordinary musical experience, 15 stories below ground level in the cathedral cave of Luray Caverns.
We're now standing in the cathedral, home of the world's largest musical instrument, the great stalagpipe organ. The development of the organ began with a 5-year-old boy's birthday visit in 1954. The idea that stalactites could be used...
The boy had been brought by his father, an electronics engineer named Leland Sprinkle. Sprinkle realized there was music in the rock. Each of the stalactites hanging from the cave roof has its own natural tone, depending on its length and thickness. When Sprinkle finds a stalactite he can use, he tunes it by grinding it until he achieves the sound he wants. Sprinkle is able to draw music from the whole cave with a network of small strikers mounted next to the stalactites. Each is rubber-tipped and controlled by an electromagnetic coil. Strangely, the sounds that stalactites produce aren't thunderous, but gentle and sweet. Inspired by music, some men undertake extraordinary adventures. In the jungle highlands of New Guinea, traveling on a grant funded by the Bechtel Group, a musicologist named Christopher Roberts goes in search of a precious heritage. He carries his music on his back. To collect and preserve music that might otherwise vanish, Roberts must journey to remote mountain villages. To them, a bass is as exotic and fascinating as the music Roberts plays on it, a Bach partita. The performance wins the confidence of the villagers. Roberts is now allowed to record songs that have passed from generation to generation for thousands of years. Old ways are changing as the young leave for city jobs. Without his efforts, these songs might disappear completely. Wherever he travels, he is greeted by smiles and music. Intrigued by Robert's bass, a village master craftsman has decided to make a local version, a bridge between two cultures. Presenting the finished bass becomes the occasion for a festival that will culminate with the only test that matters. Christopher Roberts came here looking for music. He has found joy.
In the cloak and dagger trade, the espionage business, a mole is a spy who has managed to burrow deeply into the bureaucracy of an opposing government. At the height of the American Civil War in 1863, the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, was confronted with such a possibility. A select committee of the Senate was convened to investigate the allegation that a spy had infiltrated the most secret inner circles of the White House. One of the witnesses testifying before the committee was Abraham Lincoln himself. His testimony was brief and to the point. I, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States, appear of my own volition to say that I, of my own knowledge, know that it is untrue that any of my family hold treasonable communication with the enemy. The person suspected and immediately exonerated of being a Confederate spy was the President's wife, Mary Todd Lincoln. Believe it or not.
What happens when the slate's wiped clean and civilization must start over? Will paradise return to Earth, or will a dangerous new world order prevail? Sean Connery is Zed, a warrior of the wasteland searching for salvation, fighting for his life in Zardoz. Take a glimpse into the future when After the Apocalypse Week continues, tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. Now, there's more to life than mere reality. Mysteries, magic, and miracles await your discovery next on the Sci-Fi Channel.